We're suffering Smallville. I'm Peter. That's Connor. It's going to be season 2, episode 9 of said Smallville. It is called Dichotic. So, spoilers for the episode as always. This one has a big guest star. The famous one from Home Improvement, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, is here, and he can split into two people. And they don't even bother explaining how that started. We just assume it was Meteor Rock, any cereal, but we don't know.
Do you know what? That's a good point. There's a lot of things they just don't explain in this one.
They don't. Like the fact that one of his two, because he splits into two, one of them die at the end, and the other one just kind of gets thrown to the side. And I joked, does the one who didn't fall to his death just collapse if this one dies? But they never actually answered it. And the one that gets thrown to the side did see Clark use his powers, but they just never bring it up again.
They must have. Did we miss something? Surely they didn't just ignore it. Even this show's not that bad.
I didn't notice anything, but I mean,
I've been drinking for like 10 hours, so I can't be held responsible.
This episode made you drink in the first 5 seconds.
5 seconds. It was immediate.
Because it starts off, they're in a shop class, I guess it was metal. Well, I guess in this case they mix everything together, but when I was in school, you had separate, it was all the same period, right? But it would rotate and you would refer to it as either woodwork or metalwork depending on what you were doing for that block. Whereas here, I think they just call it shop for all materials, because it seemed like different students were making different things out of different materials.
Yeah. He makes a metal S.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, what could the S stand for?
And he's like, oh, I thought the school could use a new logo or something. And it's like, yeah, all right, very good. So he's just holding this S in his hand. It's
5 seconds. 5 goddamn seconds.
But the main plot of this episode, like we say, is Jonathan Taylor Thomas splitting in two. And he doesn't snap. He's just already murderous, because when it turns out he's getting a C from this class, because it's like the non-academic class, right? Because he's making like a candlestick or something, versus like everything else where he's getting straight A's, and he wants to graduate early. He wants to be like this, straight A.
He wants to be on the Luther Scholarship.
Yeah, he wants Ivy League, but blah 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 blah, all that stuff, right? And he just shows up to the teacher after class, and we get this really cheesy Dutch angle as he's holding a blowtorch, and then the second version of him pops in and stabs the teacher, and it's like, he's not even on the brink of snapping, and then something sends him over the edge. He's just already a slasher movie villain. He's
already I'm going to murder you because you gave me a C. Just for some context, that's a pretty strong place to start your character. When your villain's out already in this episode, how much further can you go?
Well, it takes a pivot. And the episode is actually about the fact that he starts flirting and kind of dating both Lana and Chloe at the same time, because he can literally split in two and be with both of them at the same time. So,
and both of them, it's not because he likes them, it's because they can both do something for his career.
Yes, Lana can get a good recommendation for Lex for the scholarship, and Chloe can write a good newspaper article.
A glowing fluff piece.
Yes.
In the school paper that everyone will definitely care about.
Her journalistic integrity goes out the window because she likes the boy, and she just starts writing how great he is. He's a superstar. And
in the show's mild defense, at least Clark calls her out on doing exactly that.
That's true. He does. Yeah, he doesn't say journalistic integrity, but he does say...
He says journalistic something, though. He does use a specific word.
I think it was a separation or something like that. It was keeping your distance from the subject. But yeah, so this episode turns into Clark noticing that he's been flirty with Chloe and being like, okay, whatever, I guess that's the thing. But then noticing that he's been flirty with Lana and that he's made plans with both, and wait, that's bullshit. Well, they'll figure that out soon, because he can't be in both places at once. And then it turns out that he is going to both things at the same time. And when he tells both of them that he's playing them against each other, they both get very defensive and accuse him of being jealous and get really uppity about it. And I think the frustrating thing about this episode is that as soon as this question is raised about 15 minutes in, or so, literally all of the drama that happens from that point until everything resolves in the last like 5 minutes could be solved if Lana and Chloe just actually spoke to each other about what's going on. And they kind of try and cover it up by saying, oh, Ian's told them to not mention it to the other because he knows the other one's got a crush on him and it'd be awkward. So he tries to... But, like, even more ridiculous than that, though, is that Lana and Chloe, as of this episode, live together.
Yeah. Surely they'd be spending more time together, not less, when they live together now. And Ian's, like, making out with Chloe in her house, you know, fine. But Lana lives there. She could come home any minute.
Yeah, she could...
Like, Clark literally just walks in on them. What would they have done if Lana just walked in on them?
Yeah, this episode is basically, you know how Clark is always having to lie to cover the fact that he's, you know, an alien with powers? This is the episode where he actually is just constantly telling the truth and no one believes him because he always lies. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, when they try and apologize because, like, hey, we kind of didn't believe you, he actually, like, takes the high ground that he thinks he has and is like, well, I expected better from you. I expected both from both of you. Let's stop treating me like a jealous boyfriend. We're just friends. And they both look disappointed and he walks out. And the final shot of this episode is Clark smirking because he realizes he's left them both thirsty for more.
He is so smug. He's like, yes, absolutely nailed that conversation.
That's what it is.
And he strolls off into the night.
That's the thing. I can see the thought bubble as if it's a comic book saying, nailed it. Yeah. I can see that coming out of his head at the end of the episode.
The best acting Tom Welling's had in the entire show.
It really is. It's
because I 100% believe it was intentional for him to have, you know, exactly this look.
I think it's because, much like the Red Kryptonite episode, it's whenever he gets to have a bit of his real personality. You know, the idea that he thinks, oh yeah, I'm so hot, these two babes want me. Yeah. I think because he gets to play that off for a moment, it feels real.
I don't know if it's necessarily his real personality or just he has more fun doing it because
maybe,
I get it, right? It seems more fun.
I just think it's funnier to accuse him of being a dick, but
while I agree it's funnier, there are many accounts of him being a fairly nice dude compared to maybe some other people we could take shots at, especially on this show of all shows. Yeah.
There was a point in this episode where Ian first starts flirting with Chloe, and the thought that occurred to me, you know, that's not like her to attract someone problematic.
No, she could never.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically when Clark tries to tell Chloe that he's playing her and Lana against each other, I actually had the exact same thought that Chloe said like a second later, which was, well, you just can't believe that someone would pick me over Lana.
It's true. You were in mid-sentence doing exactly that line as she started saying it.
Yeah, and I was saying it as if I was Chloe, though. I was sort of like, you know, I was doing the voice and being like, oh, no one picks me over Lana. So
wow, you nailed that impression.
Thank you. So yes, all of this could be at least partially dealt with if Lana and Chloe ever just mentioned that they actually spent time with the guy because they'd realized that their stories conflict.
Ever spent any time on screen together after that point?
Yeah, because there's a scene as we're getting to the final part of the episode where Lana is at least heard enough that she comes to the torch to speak to Chloe. And she's like, hey, we need to talk about Ian. And they have this conversation about Ian. And, you know, at one point they say, this is not about Clark, this is about us. And it was really funny because the words she was saying is like, no, we need to talk about this because our friendship's important, because we have to communicate and be honest, and we have to be like, you know, we're basically sisters now because we live together, all this stuff. And then what I pointed out here is that despite kind of what she's aiming for with this conversation, every other sentence is about either Clark or Ian. So it's somehow... it's like it's going through a Bechdel test minefield, and she's like jumping on every single mine as she goes through the entire conversation.
It's trying so hard to, even though it's talking about these guys, mostly Ian, to be fair at this point, it's mostly talking about this guest star, and it's trying to be about, look, it's about our relationship, it's about us. It still fails the test.
It fails the test, and I think it's also disingenuous because up until this point in the episode, it's not really a bit about their relationship. It's not like it starts off in a place where one of them goes, oh, I can't tell her because it'll upset her feelings, and I think it would like break our friendship apart. That never comes up, really.
No, they don't tell each other because Ian asked them not to do it.
Yeah, the guy asked them not to do it.
That's literally it.
And it's basically an afterthought just to explain why
we can have drama for another 30 minutes.
It's speaking of setting up things, there's a moment in this episode where Ian says to someone, "Page me," and I was like, it's 2003, or maybe 2002. It's 2002 when this episode aired. Like, I remember being in primary school before I went to high school, before the year 2002, and how many kids my age already had mobile phones. It was already a thing. So I was like, that feels a bit off, like a teenager having a pager in 2002. Cut to 30 minutes later, right? Clark and Pete have sort of like tried to basically realize that he's in two places at once and they want to prove it. So they send him a page claiming to be from Chloe and one pretending to be from Lana to send them to two different locations at the same time. And they stake out both locations. I made a joke that I was expecting Clark to hold up a walkie-talkie as if he's like on a stakeout. He's like, Pete,
it's shot exactly like that.
The eagle, because he's sitting in the truck and he's like, Pete, the eagle has landed. The eagle has landed.
He looks out the window. It does it all.
And then there's just a moment after this where I realize, wait a minute, this is why he's got a pager. So that it could be something like without without voice. And yes,
a way of them to contact him without voice, and it could plausibly be from Chloe and Lana without having to steal their phones to text him.
Exactly, yeah. Because if it was a text, and the world was still getting used to text in 2002. Need I remind everyone that the not so hit film Halloween Resurrection came out in 2002, and a big part of that movie's plot is that one of the characters has a fancy electronic device that's basically just for receiving texts, separate from everyone's phones that they're carrying around.
Pager.
It's very no, it's more like live, chat, but it's really funny to watch now because like all the technology is like a really specific window in time, and everything they're doing is actually very plausible today. But in 2002, it was like, you're stretching believability with all this shit. There's a lot of that going on. But yeah, so there was this moment of like, this is the only reason why he's a teenager with a pager in 2002 is because they had to set this up later.
Yeah, they had to do it somehow.
Well, I mean, I guess on the basic principles of writing, you did set up something and you paid it off. It's just a really stupid thing to believe.
Yeah, I think the only, if you're trying to justify it, I'm jumping through hoops here. He comes from a less well-off family. That's why he needs the scholarship so badly.
Okay.
And he can't afford a mobile phone yet.
How expensive are pagers, though?
I don't know, but they already had one. By 2002, they're cheaper. They're old.
Okay.
They've got one lying around. It's still in use.
Okay, all right. Does he have a family? Does he have parents? I don't know. It never comes up.
He literally doesn't mention them once at any point. But I'm assuming they exist.
You would think, unless he already killed them. Which I mean,
he might well have already killed them. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he'd be the first Freak of the Week to kill his parents.
No. Because when he shows up to Lana and Chloe towards the end and realizes that they're scheming against him, he shows up with his double and a double date, and it actually starts to turn into a horror movie where they're trying to run away from him, and the other one shows up, and I'm like, we're just going to horror. It doesn't last for very long. It's literally that 10 seconds.
5 seconds. Yeah.
But yes, so he takes them to the dam to throw them over the dam to kill them. Clark, of course, shows up to save them. We get a hilarious visual effect of Chloe falling after she's pushed off.
A conveniently unconscious Chloe.
Yes, conveniently unconscious. And Clark has to jump over the edge of the dam, fall quicker than her, land so he can catch her.
On that, that classic chroma keyed green screen.
Yes. Yeah. So as Chloe's falling, she's on that kind of, what's the best way to describe this? It's like there's someone's holding her, sort of officer or gentleman style, but she's unconscious, so her arms are kind of back and her head's kind of back, but she's falling that way the entire time, and it looks kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's the thing. That made me laugh. As did the effect of the one Ian falling to his death. That was a kind of a funny composite as well.
During all of this, other Ian is holding off a battling Lana against the car, so she's conveniently out of sight for all of this.
She doesn't see any of it. Yeah, Clark uses his super speed multiple times, jumps over the bridge, all that stuff, and she sees none of it.
Ian whacks him with a big steel pipe, and it just bends.
Do you know, we're so used to these conveniences because it's just something Smallville does basically every episode. It's other things that annoy me even more. For example, after this scene, there's a scene with Lana and Chloe at the house, right? And Chloe's like, "Hey, like, we want you to feel at home. You're part of the family. You don't have to like do extra chores to make it feel like you're worth your keep or whatever, right?" And I'm like, she's been living here for like 4 days by now. This feels like a really weird conversation to be having this late into the cycle. This feels like a night one kind of conversation to me. It's just
but they were too busy with Ian for 3 nights.
Well, even after, well, that's because this is what I said when Lana showed up to say, "Hey, we need to talk about Ian." The first thing in my head was like, "You live together. Wasn't this a better You didn't have to come and meet her at her, quote unquote place of work, the Torch. You could have literally talked to her after dinner, or while you were brushing your teeth, in the bathroom next to each other."
But then they don't get the awkward moment of Chloe thinking it's Ian coming in and calling her Ian, and Lana being like, "Oh, huh, Ian, hey," as a nice convenient conversation starter.
Yes, it's all to force these specific dramatic moments. Like, clearly the writers started these moments they wanted, and even if you start to break them down and they make no sense, they still just stuck to their guns and did them anyway.
Because deadlines, I assume.
Although I did laugh. So that scene at the end when Clark comes in and the girls are waiting for him, they say, "Hey, we were up all night talking, and the subject of conversation was about you." And all I could think was, even off camera, you're failing the Bechdel test.
Yeah. This. I don't think this show is always guilty of this, because I'm sure I'm positive of that. This particular episode, it doesn't do great.
Which doesn't, and not every episode has to do great. Every episode has its focus, and sometimes you can't escape the fact that you're talking about one central character who happens to be a guy like the whole time, and that's fine. But it just really stuck out in this episode because it just felt like they were constantly talking about boys. But it's interesting you asked that question, though, because I am genuinely thinking. So, for those of you who don't know what the Bechdel test is, right? And there's lots of good movies and shows that have failed this, right? Especially older ones. But it's basically, to pass the Bechdel test, you have to have a scene where 2 female characters have a conversation, and that conversation cannot be about a male character. It can't be about a man. That's the basic gist of it. So I'm genuinely trying to think in my head now, has there ever been a scene in this show, up until this point, with 2 women talking about something that isn't a man? There probably has been, but it's probably few and far between. It's maybe like Lana and Chloe talk about the coffee shop or something like that, or... I
think anytime one of the Meteor Freaks is a woman.
Okay, so you maybe have Lana and Chloe talking about that.
About, like, I don't know, they probably talk about Fat Amy Adams.
Because I'm thinking... Like, Martha is basically always talking to Jonathan, so that doesn't typically, pass. But yeah, maybe if Lana and Chloe are talking about another guest character who just happens to be a woman, okay. That'll be where they've passed it in the past.
Which is a perfectly fine place to pass it, right?
There's sure, yeah. Given the fact that you've got 3 main cast members who are all women, it is kind of weird how little it probably does pass it, though. Like, on a recurring basis. Yeah. It's probably not as often as it should be, but hey.
Probably not, no. But maybe it gets better.
Oh, maybe.
But maybe.
Maybe when they add Lois, we've got, just by averages, we must have we must have some true. Scenes.
We replace Lois, we get rid of Pete, so yeah, it's got to balance out more.
You would think. Somehow they'll talk about Clark in every scene, though. Just you watch. Every scene. Actually, I think we have to have a new test in this show. It has to be the, I don't know what to call it, but basically the test where if Lex can go a whole episode not talking about Clark. Like, never mentioning him or talking to him. I'm sure it probably happens.
Talking to him is probably less fair because... they're friends, right? They're going to interact.
Okay. But I don't know. I feel like I'm saying he's Clark obsessed. Is what I'm saying.
He is. He absolutely is. But I don't know. That feels like an excuse to make me drink somehow.
Oh god, if we do it every time it fails the Bechdel test, which you couldn't count every scene because there's no point in, obviously a scene with two men failing the Bechdel test. There's nothing new. Obviously it is, but like anytime it's just a scene with just like two female characters, if they get through it and they couldn't avoid talking about a man, yeah, maybe that's a new drinking rule.
Are you trying to kill me?
Maybe a little bit.
God damn it.
Yeah, okay, there's a subplot. There's two subplots. The first subplot is that a tractor falls on Jonathan's leg, and he's not mad at Clark. He wasn't supposed to be here. Martha was supposed to be there to help him, and I get why. Obviously, if there's an accident, the second person can like set the joist back up or whatever. But Clark comes and saves him, and Martha was supposed to be there. He's got a broken leg. Everyone talks about it like super seriously, like he's in for like. I mean, obviously, yeah, broken leg's obviously a serious thing.
Yeah, especially when you're a bit older, right? Things take a little bit longer to heal. Right? I get it. It's not a good thing, especially for a man who is on his feet a lot.
Especially since the very last episode, we were in the hospital because of an inoperable tumor that killed a child. I feel like this is more of like a inconvenience than it is anything else, really, right?
Yeah, and like it's not good. It's bad, obviously. Yeah. But they're going like, oh man, this changes everything. And I think I'm completely on Jonathan's side here because the whole episode he's like, can we stop making a big deal about this? Like, sure, it's not great, but it'll be fine.
Yeah,
it will be fine, guys. And they're all like, nope, we must drop everything now.
I mean, he should accept that he should rest because he's kind of refusing to do that.
He goes a little bit far.
Yeah, but other than that, yeah, he's absolutely right about it, and that's all it really is. I mean, at the end he says, "Oh, I've been feeling a bit butthurt because you seem to prioritize your job over us." And Martha's like, "No, you and Clark always come first." Blah 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 blah. That's all it really is. The other subplot starts out with Lex getting mad that he's getting a parking ticket, and to be fair, he is a rich prick in this scene. He's like, I don't have time for this. This is a waste of my time. Just forget the ticket, will you?
You can tell when he's going to be rich prick because this is the only scene of the episode where he's wearing the sunglasses, the really edgy ones.
But he just immediately gets all like, just let this go. I've only been here for 5 minutes. And the guy's like, I've already started writing the ticket. Yeah, I have to. And he's a bit of a dick, but he's still not in the wrong for making the parking ticket. So Lex's reaction to this is to grab one of the golf clubs that he has in the back of his car, which he tries to like get favor by saying, "This is a charity. This is for charity. I was going to do a charity thing with these golf clubs."
And the dude's like, "So you can donate a $4,000 set of clubs, but not pay a $25 ticket."
Which seems really cheap still, by the way. I feel like parking tickets are a lot more expensive than that right now, at least, if not back then too.
Yeah, I'm wondering if 2002. Middle of nowhere can afford to put them any higher. Otherwise, no one pays them, and it defeats the whole point.
Yeah, maybe. But he's kind of got a point. I'm like, you're a millionaire. What? This is going to take me like 20 more seconds to finish writing this ticket, and you could just pay it, and you'll never think about it again. But you have to stand here and fight me on it. So Lex grabs his golf club, his 9-iron, I think he said specifically, and smashes this guy's windshield, which gets him sent to mandatory anger management. He's lucky it was just that, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah, my favorite part of this is when the guy around the ticket's riling him up, and he goes, I'm sure you'll be fine. And he looks at his number plate, to check. He goes, Lex, because of course he has a custom plate. He's being really smug that he gets to write this ticket.
He is. I'm still mostly on his side though over Lex in this scene.
Lex was parked in the wrong place. He gets a ticket. Boo-hoo, pay it and move on.
This scene gives me nothing to side with Lex on, quite frankly. It doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know if it's meant to.
Maybe not. Maybe we're supposed to see he's angry.
He is actively punished, right? He goes to anger management.
Oh yeah, he goes to anger management so he can chat up the...
Meets Hot Doctor again.
Yeah, so yeah, the doctor working on Jonathan at the hospital, which Lex runs into, all that stuff when it's happening. in fact, none of these will run into the doctor. He shows up and says, "Hey, I've got a better doctor from Metropolis coming in to give a second opinion," and she rightfully gets offended.
Like we're saying is like, it's a broken leg. I think I can deal with it.
Yeah, this isn't some freak tumor that needs
we get the specialist in for the freak tumors. Yes,
this is a broken leg. It's pretty simple stuff.
It's literally routine.
Yeah, but yes, Jonathan's doctor is unexceptionally attractive. She is,
immediately, obviously. Yeah, we were immediately like, hang on a second.
Honestly, there's a sort of moment where you're like, wait, are we watching a porn all of a sudden? Because this doctor feels like she's about to start stripping.
And then it's the next scene where Lex shows up and talks to her. You're like, oh, she's recurring.
She's going to be a recurring character, yes. Which is just to say that she was far too glamorous looking, and it was very clear she was here for more of a purpose. And sure enough, he meets her at anger management. He tries to ask her out. She says no because you don't even remember me. And then he goes and has a think about it. It's like, oh, you were a med student when I was in here vomiting in Metropolis in the hospital.
I've been there.
I've not, but sure. And yes, there's not really much of a resolution to it other than they kind of smile with each other. So presumably this is going to develop into more.
I have vague memories of where this goes. I'm not sure how reliable they are.
I remember her being about the mansion for a bit. So I guess...
I mean, mild spoilers, I guess, for anyone that cares. I have vague memories of them getting engaged, and then she's pulling a scam the entire time, or something along those lines.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what to say about that, but we'll see.
I'm not confident in that. I just like, but I'm like, that's like maybe a thing that happens.
I mean, if that's true, then she played a hell of a card by turning him down at first. You'd think she would be like taking him at first.
Yeah, but no. If she's pulling the scam, she's profiled him. She knows what this is how you get him even more interested.
I hate to compare it to a vastly superior show, but she's doing her Jimmy McGill. She's got her mark. She's doing her slipping Jimmy. She's a slipping. What's her name here?
Bryce is the surname.
Helen. She's a slipping.
Helen.
Wait.
You just revealed her secret identity.
Did I?
Helen. She can't be doing that.
Oh, that's what you're doing. They make it. Yes. When he sees her real name at anger management, she's like, "Don't reveal my secret identity." And I pointed out that maybe you Connor should drink for that, because I don't think the term secret identity should exist before the world's first superhero. So
yeah, in universe, we know they have comics.
Yes,
with heroes. Where Warrior Angel was huge last episode.
Yes,
but also, every single time they just use those comics as an excuse to make references anyway.
Anyway, so back to my thing. If Jim McGill is slipping Jimmy when he's doing a con, Helen Bryce is Highway to Helen.
Nailed it.
I can't be stopped. I cannot be stopped. So yeah, that's a thing that's set up for the future. Did anything else happen in this episode worth mentioning? I don't think so. I can't remember.
We did Lex. We did Broken Leg.
Oh, after the shop teacher goes missing, Clark gets suspicious and actually goes looking for a dead body. And it feels like even though he's right, it's a bit of a leap for just immediately.
Like, oh man, he called in sick today. That's convenient and that's weird. And then he goes and checks with the office, like the principal's office, and like, he didn't call in at all. That's even weirder.
Why would the principal tell him that?
I don't know. Also, what's more responsible business isn't calling their employees when they don't phone in sick to check, just like, hey, are you alive? Isn't that policy like everywhere?
Yeah. Check to see if they're just being a bad employee, if there's something wrong.
Are you running late? Are you dead? Like, what's happening?
And then when they are looking around for the body, Pete literally sticks his head into a closet, looks around and says there's nothing there, but then when he turns around, we get the fallen body out of the shadow of the closet bit, and I'm like, you know what? this works in the camera because it's, you know, it's exposed correctly, so that's complete pitch blackness. But Pete's stuck his head in, and the human eye is actually better at seeing in low light than a camera is. So, like, I don't buy that he couldn't see that body.
It's really dark in there, though.
It's really shut up. It's stupid. It's really stupid.
And it's a workshop, so there's a bunch of random bits of lead that just conveniently blocked Clark's X-ray vision.
Well, that was the thing. Clark said we have to look around, and Pete didn't really like it. He's like, okay, fine, I'm looking. And I'm like, why are you looking, Clark? Turn your X-ray vision on and do a 360.
Yeah. Lead. There's lead in the room. That was definitely safe for the students to work with.
What, lining the closets?
They built this school like a fortress. What if they needed to use it for a fallout for a nuclear bomb in the Cold War?
I don't think Smallville got a defense budget during the Cold War. I think they figured that's too small a target. No one's going to try and hit Smallville.
But no. That Smallville is the center of America's corn market, which runs their entire system. You take out Smallville, you cripple their corn. Oh, America's dead. It's the backbone of their economy.
Corn's not that important. I think that's big corn and their marketing convincing you of their importance.
Look, all I'm saying is, big corn adverts might work, but we'll never know because it didn't happen. We can merely speculate.
Okay. All right. Needless to say, it was not good.
Yep.
That could be a catchphrase at the end of this. Needless to say, it was not good.
Yep. When is it ever?
Oh dear. I mean, I had some chuckles along the way, so I can't really complain too much. But yes. Yeah. Oh well. So yeah, it is kind of. I mean, just to go back to that last scene again, just for a moment, it is kind of weird that Clark says, "I mean, we're just friends. None of us have actually dated. Stop treating me like a jealous boyfriend." And Lana goes, "Is that what you really want?" And he looks at both of them, and when he says, "Yes, we're just friends," both of them look disappointed. And I'm like, this is really weird. Like, what if he said, like, imagine this if this scene keeps going, but instead of saying, "I just want to be friends," he says, "No, actually, Lana, I'm in love with you. Sorry, Chloe." Like, imagine the mood of that scene. If that was the next thing that came out of his mouth.
I know. And it's just, they also have that look of the obvious lie. What was the one earlier in the episode? I think it was with Lana.
Oh, yeah, because it's when he's helping her move in, and Clark says, "Yeah, it's really tough when someone you love moves away." And she just stares at him like, "Are you talking about me?" And yeah, he obviously is, and then they just awkwardly move on.
Yeah, there's another one as well, where she asks him something, and he goes, "No." I was like, all right, yeah, that was real convincing there, Clark.
Oh, no, is it not yep? He says yep to something.
Yep, it might be, yeah.
Yep. I can't remember what the question was, but someone says something. It's after he sees her, like, Ian kisses her locker. And then she wants it to Clark and says, "Is everything all right, Clark?" I think that's what she said. And he just goes, "Yep."
Yep, that's it. Real convincing. Honestly, Tom Welling's best work in this episode. This episode, he's earning his pay as a leading man.
Well, he made us laugh a couple times. I don't know if he's doing his job as he's supposed to, but it was working.
Hey, between that yep and that final smug look, I don't know.
Okay.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
All right. Well, there you go. That's Smallville Season 2, Episode 9. Let's look ahead to next time, shall we? We forgot to do this in the last episode. I do apologize, everyone. Next episode, oh god, is called Skinwalker.
I remember this one.
I don't really remember it that well, but this is the one that introduces the caves. I don't know that much.
It is, and it has a shapeshifter, kind of like, Native American werewolf style.
Honestly, this one doesn't have a short synopsis. It's just a full paragraph.
We've just given you one. Native American shapeshifter style.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. The photos got Clark with his shirt open with the guest star.
If I recall, there is a attractive Clark aged young girl,
yes,
and her elderly grandpa
I wonder if next episode Chloe and Lana are doing a sting with walkie-talkies, like saying, "Hey, this bitch is trying to get Clark. Are we going to keep an eye on her, see if she's suspicious? Hey, this is line 1."
I like. Doesn't Clark have a thing for her in the episode as well? We're joking, but I think he does.
I think he does. I think he's.
But again, who doesn't Clark have a thing for at this point?
Which, by the way, Clark's reaction to, because when he bumps into Lex at the hospital and says hello, he says, "Oh yeah, I mean, it's not like I took a 9-iron to someone's windshield." And Lex is like, "Oh, you heard about that, yeah? Yeah, I heard about it." And Clark just gives him a look like, "Yeah, I heard."
Like, nice job.
Yeah, that's the look he gives him, like, "Oh, you naughty boy," and then he walks off. And I'm like, no, this is psychotic behavior. If I knew someone who picked up a golf club and started smashing like car windows with it because he was mad about a parking ticket, I'd be like, "Dude, you need serious help."
Yeah, but you don't get to brush off with, "Oh, that crazy rich dude."
This is like he's found out, "Oh, you spent the night with that girl you were hoping to hook up with."
It is. It's the same thing. Like, "Oh, I'm proud of you, mate."
You naughty boy. Like, no, that's not the reaction to this. It's unhinged.
I love as well, like, he's there going, "Well, everyone knows the town is called Smallville." And then literally no one else knows for the rest of the episode. It has to be brought up over and over again because they haven't heard it yet.
Yes. Clark just has got, he's not got a super hearing yet, but he's got connections. He hears things through the grapevine.
He does, yeah.
All right, there you go. That's that's the episode. We'll see you next time, guys. Let us know what you thought of Dichotic. And actually, one final line I want to bring up now that I've remembered it. Jonathan Taylor Thomas is in this. Obviously, he's from Home Improvement, and notably, he's like the middle child in that show. But in this episode, he's an only child. And when Chloe's saying to him, "Hey, you're such an overachiever, you do all these things, like, what's up with that?" He says, maybe it's because I'm an only child. I want to make up for all the things that those other kids that my parents didn't have might have done. As an only child, that is the most stupid, ridiculous nonsense I have ever heard. What?
While you're probably right, that is true. Have you considered you're just a shit only child and maybe you should be doing more with your life to make up for the other kids your parents didn't have?
Never. I am literally the best only child on the planet. Okay? There is none that compare. Right? They're all lesser.
I really want to think of a famous only child right now that can put you.
But
to
you don't know which one's an only children, so you have no idea.
I really don't. I can't think of a single one. All the examples I can think of are people clearly with siblings. Like the goddamn Olsen twins got mentioned in this episode, and for some reason that's all I can think of. Clearly not only children.
Yeah, I mean, not only do they have other siblings that are also actors that I can point to, the mere fact that they're the Olsen twins kind of puts a wrench in the whole plan.
It does. It really does. And then I went, "Oh, what about the Hemsworths?"
Here's the problem. You keep thinking of words that have a plural. No plurals, okay?
I know, but I avoided it because I went to, what about Henry Cavill? Because I went to Superman, obviously. But then I went, but hang on, there's that picture that always goes around every so often of his nephew.
Uh-huh.
You know, his nephew went to school, like told all the kids, "Oh, my uncle's Superman," and they're all like, "No, he's not. Piss off." And then so Henry Cavill came in and proved that he was, they were. But so I'm assuming he's not an only child either. So like,
I mean, it could be
it could be on the wife's side.
It could be an uncle through marriage, but yeah,
it could be. But I don't want to definitively say Henry Cavill's a better only child than you.
I mean, he's not. Even if he is, he's not. But that's fine.
He objectively is.
No, he's not. Have you seen his decisions? He quit The Witcher so he could do Superman, and then that fell through, and now he's sitting there looking like a fool. A fool.
Yeah. He's rich and playing Warhammer all day.
Yeah.
He's living his best life.
The Warhammer cancels out the rich, okay? It does. It simply does. I'm cooler than Henry Cavill, and I will die on this hill.
You are not cooler than Henry Cavill.
Of course I am. Look at me.
Have you ever reloaded your fist in an action scene?
No, but I've done it in real life.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
You're not as cool as Henry Cavill.
I'm as cool as Henry Cavill. I don't have to make my beard reappear. I just have it all the time, like a proper person.
I have seen you mess up shaving and have to make it reappear the hard way.
Yeah, I put work into it. I didn't just take shortcuts. Like, that's lazy layabout.
Because he's cooler than you, he gets to take shortcuts.
Oh dear, cooler than Cavill. That's the new.
Absolutely not.
No, jeez. Tom Welling's remembered as a better Superman actor than Henry Cavill. That's how poor he messed that up. Okay, that's how badly Henry Cavill balls it up. I've never messed up anything as badly as Henry Cavill messed up his Superman career.
I'll find something.
Okay, this is taking a turn. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Keep watching TV. And won't somebody save me?